Why are people so afraid of death? You may listen to this and say, well, I'm not afraid of death. Perhaps you're not. Maybe you've already settled what you believe about what happens when we transition from life to death. But for many, many people, death is their number one fear. We could say then, rightfully so. Because to many people, death is the end. Death is that thing that means we have completed our journey on this earth and there is nothing else. For many others, though, there is the belief that there must be something else, but it is the great unknown, and the unknown, of course, causes fear. We know this to be true. I would argue that right now in the United States of America, many, many people who have not even thought about the possibility of their own death, their own mortality, are for maybe the first time in their lives concerned about death, at least questioning what happens when this life ends. In fact, we're living at a moment in time where our government is telling us that all life needs to stop except for those things that would protect our ability to breathe and eat and exist. We've come to the place, it seems at least nationally, where the safety of the person, our ability to live, is the most important thing. Quality of life has become less important. Living a life of purpose and meaning and value have also become much less important than simply surviving. Safety seems to be the word of the day. Why is it that so many people are afraid of death? I would suggest that the reason so many are afraid of death is because they don't understand the purpose of life. A child is born into this world, and we do our best to protect that child, to provide the things that that child needs to grow and become the adult that he will naturally become if everything works out according to plan. Unfortunately, we think that our job as parents, bringing that child up to the place where they can have the things they need to stay safe and to develop, that then becomes the goal for the rest of life. Somehow we've developed this thought in our own minds that the goal of life is staying safe. And yet we know that each year nearly 60 million people will die. We fail to understand that the purpose of life is not safety. The purpose of life is not to prevent anything bad from happening, but that the purpose of life is to invest the moments that we have in doing the thing for which we were created. Now, I think some people are afraid of death because they've never settled the reason for which they were created. From a Christian perspective, from a biblical worldview, if you share that with me, we would conclude that the purpose for which we were created is to glorify the God that gave us life. To live a life that glorifies Him, to live a life that speaks to how great He is. But then we forget what exactly it is we have to do to live that kind of life. The God that gives life, the God that breathed life into all humans, the God that created us is a God that receives glory when we live for something bigger than ourselves. When we invest the moments of our days, the life that we have in helping others and making those around us better than they would be without us. We give glory to our Creator when we fully live the created life, the life that He gave us to live. We also need to understand in this discussion of death that death is not final. That understanding there is a God who is a creator, we also have to understand that the life we live on this earth is temporary and only a very small part of our complete existence. Our souls and our spirit are trapped in this physical body that certainly will die, but there is life beyond what we see in front of us. There is life beyond what we experience. What we need to do instead of being afraid of death is ask the question, have we prepared for what comes next? You see, the Creator, the one that made us, also provided a way for us to have an eternal relationship with Him. We find that mapped out for us in the Bible. In fact, we're told that He loved us so much that He has provided exactly what we need through a relationship with His Son, Jesus Christ, to have that eternal relationship. So when we ask the question of why is it that we're afraid of death, I think it's for one of two reasons. We either fail to understand the purpose of life, or we fail to fully grasp the fact that there's something beyond this temporal life, and we need to be prepared for that next thing. Many folks now are being confronted with their own mortality. For better or for worse, every day we're hearing reports of how many are sick and how many have died. This goes on again and again and again, and it creates a collective anxiety. We all have anxiety, whether we identify it or not. It's right there under the surface because we're being told all of the time how bad things are. And for the first time, perhaps ever, many are asking the question, what do I believe about death? Here's a better question. Am I prepared for what happens when the physical body dies? Have I understood what it is to have a relationship with my Creator? Do I know what that looks like? Am I prepared for death? When we're prepared for death, the fear of death goes away. Certainly there will always be the fear of loss, perhaps, of those that we care for. We don't want to separate from them. But there's no fear in death if we understand that we are secure in Jesus, our Creator. Beyond that, we need to stop asking, how do I protect myself from death? If we've settled that there is something beyond that and we can be prepared for that something, we then need to ask the question, how can I live, how can I invest the moments that I have on this side of that event? I believe that so much of the anxiety that we experience, so much of the fear that goes along with that anxiety would quickly go away if instead of focusing on the safety that is required to prolong our days on this earth, we woke up every morning and lived every day to invest what we have in giving glory to our Creator by serving others. When you stop living each one of your days to prolong your life, you are free to live the life that you were created to live. Now you must prepare. You must understand who God our Creator is and what His Son Jesus did on your behalf. You need to understand that He did that on your behalf. We celebrated Easter a few weeks ago. He died on a cross to pay the price for our sin. That's why we die. He did that so we may then live eternally. And it is understanding that and putting our confidence in Him, our faith, that allows us to have that eternal life. Prepare for what happens on the other side of death. And then live the moments that you have on this planet to the absolute fullest. I believe that folks are very scared. So much of it is the propaganda that's being pushed on us all of the time. Nothing scares us quite like the possibility of death, and nothing controls us quite like fear. So it's in front of us all of the time. How do you overcome it? How do you deal with it? Prepare for what will inevitably happen. Understand that what happens in this life is not all that there is, and then live every day to the absolute fullest. There need be no fear in death. Are you prepared? And are you investing everything you have in the moments you've been given?